Peace and blessings. Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So, for this short live stream, I want to talk about why Kamala Harris won the debate last night against Donald Trump. Now, I'm going to be as quick as possible because I have to get ready for work. But there are key moments that need to be highlighted in this particular discussion. First of all, I'm going to start off with the strong points that Donald Trump made and, the pluses in his column. And then I'm going to go into more detail about Kamala Harris and why she won this particular debate. So Donald Trump made some strong points during the debate. Like, they discussed the issue of the economy. They talked about inflation. And the moderators asked Kamala Harris about the economy and about her assessment of the Biden administration's efforts to address the economy and inflation in particular. And instead of addressing that issue head on, Kamala Harris went into a discussion about her background coming from a middle class household and all that kind of stuff. And I don't think that that was an adequate response to that particular issue. It was a deflection. And the other thing is this. One of the good points that Donald Trump made during this debate is he asked, why hasn't Kamala Harris implemented a lot of the ideas that she has while she's been vice president? And there was no real strong response to that particular issue. Another strong point in Donald Trump's favor in terms of this debate was the point about Kamala Harris changing her positions on a lot of issues. And this is something that the moderators asked her about. And I don't think that she really had an adequate response to that particular issue. And basically, Donald Trump was saying that she was changing her position on these issues for political purposes, that she's not motivated by her values, and that she's basically disingenuous and dishonest. And I don't think that she adequately addressed that. She talked about how she had been opposed to fracking, for quite some time. But the fact of the matter is she had one position at one point, and now she's changed her position, and she changed her position on other issues as well. And I don't think that she adequately addressed that. But despite all that stuff that I just said, I do believe that Kamala Harris won this debate. And before I get into like some substantive things with respect to key moments in this particular debate, I'll just say this. Donald Trump, despite the things that I just mentioned, he's a total clown. There's clownish, buffoonish moments of this particular debate. For instance, him talking about so-called illegal immigrants eating people's pets and all that kind of stuff. That has become a meme on social media now. He is being laughed at. He's looked at as a buffoon because of those ridiculous, unsubstantiated comments. And as the moderators pointed out, the city manager for that particular jurisdiction where these things are alleged to have occurred basically said that there's no evidence of this. And Donald Trump didn't have any rebuttal to that. All Donald Trump did was regurgitate things that he heard people say in the media, like some individuals making these blanket allegations without any facts. And, so that's another, that's one of the points that made him look like a clown. Another point that made him look like a total clown and a buffoon was him talking about, people getting abortions after a child is born. And the moderators correctly pointed out that that doesn't happen in America. It's illegal for somebody to abort a child after they are born. And Donald Trump knows this, but his fans and supporters are gullible enough to believe it. And he didn't have any proof to back up that ridiculous exaggeration when it comes to, this issue of abortion. And that brings me to like these strong points that Kamala Harris made during this debate. Like one of the highlights of this particular debate is when they started to talk about a woman's right to choose. They talked, Kamala Harris brought home the point about how, how that Supreme Court case where they reversed Roe v. Wade has had a horrible impact on women's lives. She talked about how there are some jurisdictions where people have to, they don't have a right to an abortion, even in cases of incest, even in cases of rape. And she talked about real life examples of people who have been subjected to sexual abuse. And she talked about the need for those women to have control over their own bodies. And I think that those were some powerful points in this debate. It's probably one of the most powerful moments in this particular debate. The other point that I'll say is this. She made a powerful point about immigration. Of course, Donald Trump went on and on about how, the Biden administration and Kamala Harris failed to address the problem of illegal immigration into the United States. He talked about how she was put in charge of that and she failed miserably and all that kind of stuff. But all of that didn't carry much weight when you look at the bottom line. The bottom line is this: Congress had a chance to pass immigration reform, to take the necessary steps to bring about the change that both parties, frankly, want to see when it comes to the immigration issue. But Donald Trump, instead of, moving forward with that type of legislation or encouraging lawmakers to enact that kind of legislation for the sake of politics, he decided to encourage people in Congress to oppose immigration reform. And as Kamala Harris pointed out, he would rather run on an issue instead of actually addressing it. And I think that point hit the nail on the head. It was right on point and right on target. And it basically took the wind out of Donald Trump's sails when it comes to, this issue of illegal immigration, because you can't pretend to be so outraged about illegal immigration, but then when you have the opportunity to get a law passed that will help address that issue, you decide to encourage members of Congress to hold up that legislation so that you could use it as a political football during the presidential election. And that just shows how disingenuous this man is. It shows how he is not concerned about the issue, really. He's concerned about his own self-promotion and his own political position. And, so I thought that was a compelling point during this debate. And he really did not have a good answer to that question. And for me, that takes away like one of his key talking points. It really does. It neutralizes that key talking point about immigration. The other thing that I want to point out is that Kamala Harris made some powerful points when it comes to Donald Trump and his racism. She pointed out how Donald Trump referred to those racists in Charlottesville as some very fine people. She pointed out how Donald Trump relied on birtherism, to try to attack former President Obama. A racist notion that somehow because Obama is a black man that he's not an American citizen, where he was questioning Obama's nationality and all that kind of stuff. And that whole birtherism movement is rooted in racism. She pointed out how Donald Trump had been sued for housing discrimination. He refused to rent to African Americans, but yet and still you have these buffoonish, clownish, Sambo, coon type figures running around here supporting a man who wouldn't even allow them to live on his property. But these are the people that want to champion Donald Trump and walk around with these red hats on, supporting this man. But she pointed out that. She pointed out how Donald Trump took out a full-page ad calling for the death penalty against those young black men who were falsely accused in Central Park. And frankly, Donald Trump didn't have, all Donald Trump did is double down on, the fact that he did that. He didn't, disavow it. He didn't apologize for it. All he did was try to argue that he was right for doing that. And this shows you everything that you need to know about Donald Trump. It shows you a lot about this man. And, for me, as far as this debate is concerned, I think that Kamala Harris won hands down for the reasons that I previously stated. But I will say this, I don't think it was a slam dunk. I don't think she completely obliterated him. Even though I will say this, she did make some powerful points. Uh, Not only was she defensive, when he would try to level these attacks against her, she also went on the offense and made some hard hitting points about Donald Trump. While Donald Trump talks about law and order and all this kind of stuff, she pointed out how Donald Trump is a convicted felon. She point like while Donald Trump is ranting and raving about supposed fraud, Donald Trump is the one who's been convicted of engaging in fraudulent activity. So I thought that was those were some great points, bringing up, punching him back, hitting him back, going on the offense against this guy who is a bully. And sometimes you have to handle bullies like that. And she did a very effective job of handling this bully, Donald Trump. And, as I was saying before, I don't think it was a complete slam dunk or anything. I think that most of the people who support Donald Trump will maintain their support for Donald Trump. I don't think she peeled away any Donald Trump supporters because these people are like cult followers, despite, people talking about him being convicted. That's not really persuasive for those people because they believe in all these ridiculous conspiracy theories that Donald Trump espouses, where he's saying that, these prosecutions are politically motivated without any actual proof that this is some kind of conspiracy from the Biden administration and all that kind of stuff. So, the people that support him will continue to support him. The people that support Kamala Harris will continue to support her. She did everything that she needed to do for this debate. But I think that those reasonable, undecided voters, if they look at this debate from an objective standpoint, they will see that Kamala Harris was more successful in this debate. They will see that she won the debate. And she was definitely more presidential than Donald Trump with his ridiculous antics and his ridiculous buffoonish statements about people eating folks' pets and, abortions after birth and all that kind of stuff. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was like Donald Trump, despite everything that I'm saying, Donald Trump, when he's doing these debates, he speaks off the cuff. And for some people who are, uninformed, they will think that he's being honest and frank and that he's, more credible because he speaks off the cuff and he's not rehearsed and all that kind of stuff. But so I think that aspect of his performance helps him. The fact that he speaks off the cuff and he doesn't sound rehearsed. Whereas it's a catch-22 for Kamala Harris. She was very well prepared for this debate. She was able to respond to most of the questions being raised and most of these attacks that were made against her. She was able to effectively respond. But since she was so well prepared, a lot of her answers sound rehearsed. They didn't sound like they were just spontaneous responses. They sound very rehearsed and very practiced. And, that takes away from the appearance of sincerity and all that kind of stuff. So I think that it's a catch-22. Like it is absolutely necessary to be as prepared as possible, but sometimes you can be so prepared that you don't come across in a genuine kind of way, a genuine, natural way. So unfortunately, I don't have time to respond to all the comments in there, but I will say this: if you're a black person and you're talking about we voting for Trump, you got to be out your cotton picking mind. This is a man who's anti-civil rights. This is a man who tried to suppress black voters around the country. This is a man who, supported these justices who got rid of affirmative action. This is a man who's called for immunity for these punk police that brutalize and racially profile black people. this is a man who, called those white supremacists in Charlottesville some very fine people. So I could go on and on. Um, you just got to be crazy to support Donald Trump. Anyway, those are my quick thoughts. I have to get ready for work. I may come back on here and do another live. So with that, I'll say peace and blessings. And before I go real quick, I just want to remind you all that we have a book club on Facebook, New Possibilities Book Club. On the last Sundays of each month, we meet via Zoom and in person. So they're hybrid meetings. And I encourage you to join the page, to like the page, to follow the page, and to join our meetings. Our next book will be by a Nigerian woman author, and I don't want to mispronounce her name, but the book is called Americana. So I hope that you all can join us for that great and thought-provoking discussion. I will leave a link in the comments to this video. Peace and blessings. Have a great day, and tell me what you thought about that debate. Who do you think won the debate? Peace.